I think that there are probably three fundamental attributes that need to be applied, whether it's here in Australia or abroad, and that is to promote a principle of non-discrimination, to look at the fact that opportunity must be provided in order to overcome disadvantage, and the third is to look at the promotion of diversity across the world. I think one of the big problems is that people often respond from the point of view of whether their pockets are full or empty. People respond from the point of view of whether they're the same or different to other people. And then that leads to discrimination and resentment and hate. And I think that if we want to come up with something that really works for here in Australia, we ought to have a day of peace and reconciliation, one that describes that in terms of history, we can acknowledge and embrace and claim ownership of our past in a way where all of us are part and parcel of each other. I think it was Desmond Tutu that recently said on a trip here last year, "I am because you are." And the point that he was making was that our histories are intertwined, they're part of a common past. You can't dissociate one from the other, and there must be an intimacy between how Australians see themselves and their past. The Olympics, I think, and particularly the opening ceremony, was a good example of how those stories can come together. So it must be a case of making sure that people don't seek to delegitimise or invalidate the views and stories and experiences of one group as opposed to another. I think it's really hard to get to a point where you actually make people understand that most people by and large are ignorant. Now that's not to say that everyone has a bad intention when it comes to dealing with these issues. The challenge is that for Indigenous people and for others across the globe is that often we have to take up the baton and the charge to remove fear from those that are already in charge. And that essentially means that if we expect to get to a point of coexistence and reconciliation, you've got to take people to a new ground of understanding, and that's what reconciliation is about. Not easy to achieve, harder to overcome because so many people are fearful of going to a new point of understanding, and people prefer to fall to prejudice because it's much easier to do than it is to come to some new understanding.